Hello, I am 13, and tonight we're going to be playing a brew of mine. It's Jund Pyromancer Ascension. So, this deck I'm not expecting is going to go overly well because we're trying to make a lot of one-for-one trades early game and then try to go into the late game. And despite the fact that we're Jund, we have no discard. But this deck does do a couple of fun things. So, first and foremost, the namesake of the deck, Pyromancer's Ascension will allow us to copy a spell if it has two counters on it. If we can get Pyromancer's Ascension running, Noxious Revival and Manamorphose actually goes infinite with each other, and we can end up generating 2 mana and drawing a card until we either draw out our deck or just draw into more gas. Then what this deck is really doing that's fun is we're running 10 copies of Abrupt Decay. 4 in Assassin's Trophy, 4 in Abrupt Decay, and 2 in Vraska Golgari Queen. You also have to keep in mind that with Pyromancer Ascension active, we actually get double spells from both of these. So between that and Noxious Revival, we get a lot of casts of Abrupt Decay. So that's what this deck is trying to do. We end up backing it up with the fact that we're in red. We're going to add Lightning Bolt, probably the best card in Magic, as well as 2 copies of Hazoret. This is just a very hard to answer creature that does a lot, allows us to pitch any of the cards that don't really have any text on them. Basically, though, it's a 5/4 indestructible. Path's about the only thing that can answer it, and if they're running Path, it's going to be a little hard for them to answer the rest of our deck. So that's the deck here. Just a lot of copies of Abrupt Decay and Pyromancer's Ascension. We can end up winning the game with Hazoret. Vraska ends up getting us card advantage, lets us pitch our birds early. We can go infinite with Manamorphose and Noxious Revival. Just a lot of fun things there. Our sideboard is a little bit more tailored to being able to hate out greedy decks with Blood Moon, cheese out Leyline of the Void. We have the Faithless Lootings to help fuel our graveyard, so we can ended up taking a winning strategy against graveyard decks. Torpor Orb is there to hedge against humans and basically the new pod deck because they have to have enter the battlefield effects to go off. And Dragon's Claw is to hedge out burn because we're going to be a little bit slower on our game plan and we have a lot of red cards. Mana base is alright. We have a couple off-color fetches, but this deck's going to do some fun things. I'm pretty excited to give it a go. One of the flaws with the strategy is actually the fact that Vraska's ultimate requires us to make combat damage to a player, and the only creature we have that can attack is actually Hazoret. But looks like we got paired for our game, and we won the die roll. We'll go ahead and take the play. And this hand is a little sketchy, but Faithless Lootings basically look at 2 new cards, and we have Bolt. We have a couple of plays lined up. So I'll hang on to it, be a little skeptical, but see where it goes. And as long as we just discard lands here, our opponent might actually think that we are Dredge, which I am perfectly okay with. Ribbons being a fantastic card for Pyromancer's Ascension. Each opponent loses X life if we can double up on that. Just fantastic way to finish the game. Ooh. Opponent is on Big Red or Mono Red Prison. Alright, so I do not want to leave this Rabblemaster up. Getting Ascension out faster is going to be fantastic here. Given the fact that they're going to try to Blood Moon us, they didn't have a Blood Moon on turn 1, but probably better to get our green source out here. And may as well just go with the Sorcery Speed answer. Also, because this only hits a creature, and I'm expecting either a Koth or a Chandra in our future. But 2-for-1s like Rabblemaster are terrible for our deck. Now I'm seeing the Mutavault. I'm thinking this actually just might be goblins. Okay, so what does Manamorphose mean for us? I kind of want the ability to Pyromancer's Ascension and hold up the Bolt for the Mutavault. If this is goblins, I don't really want to take the damage for that. Pyromancer's Ascension probably isn't going to get us very far since we don't have much fuel anywhere. I think I want to lead on the tap Blood Crypt and kind of just take this turn off. It looks like our opponent doesn't have a ton of pressure going on, and if we can take away a land, that's just fantastic. Snaring Bridge perfectly fine. And I'd rather bolt the land. I'll just take the one from the Goblin here. I do think I want to redraw with Manamorphose, though. Probably green and black. I can't imagine we'd actually cast Assassin's Trophy if we drew it, but may as well give us that option. Alright, so expecting a Blood Moon at some point in our future here. I kind of like the idea of being able to play the swamp that we drew. Again, I'm perfectly okay slow rolling the mana base here. They're clearly a prison deck, so leaving up Bolt for a potential walker or the Mutavault is probably our best bet. Oh, I should not have ran out that second Metamorphose. That was a mistake. That would have put in a counter on our Pyromancer's Ascension that was in hand. Okay, so there's Chandra. Okay, so what are the advantages of bolting Chandra here? So we'd get her down to 2. If we top deck a bolt, that would allow us to kill her. We also just have the mana to do that anyway. Faithless Looting is looking pretty good for next turn. Although running out Vraska is perfectly fine. Our opponent's not really putting the pressure on. I think we're just going to hold it. Alright, so again, expecting a Blood Moon in our future, I think I'm just going to go ahead and grab a Forest here. We're not going to take any pain from it, and we want to be able to cast this. We're going to go with Vraska here. Upping +2 is at least some action. We're putting a little more pressure on our opponent to make them do something here. And I do want to sack a land, probably our green generating source. Noxious Revival is interesting here. So that'll let us spend Amorphose, get a counter, draw a fresh card. Probably our best bet. Alternatively, we can just bolt Chandra end of turn and then Noxious Revival for life and put it on top. Killer. We'll see what our opponent does because that'll really dictate what we have to do here. Let's see where they're more interested in going. At Vraska. Yep, I'm okay with that. I think we're just going to go for the Chandra kill here. That's the only thing that's legitimately pressuring us. So let's just go for the Bolt. And I believe we actually just want to stop on our upkeep. We're at 14, which isn't nothing against the red deck, so we can save ourselves 2 life by going this route. Then kill Chandra. Our deck actually doesn't need a ton of mana at this point, so I am just going to run out another land. And Rabblemaster is actually quite bad for us. So this is going to put Vraska down to the point she can't Abrupt Decay. Yep, still going after Vraska. That's fine. Okay, Abrupt Decay looks good. Let's run out Faithless Looting first, though. Let's see what we can actually draw into. Wow, nothing great. And again, perfectly happy to sacrifice a land, see more cards, gain some life. And that was poor sequencing again. It may have been better to run out the Faithless Looting first, but here we're missing another counter on our Pyromancer's Ascension. Okay, so he definitely wants to make sure Vraska goes down. I'm just going to kill the Rabble Master now since Vraska's dead regardless. Alright, so Redundant Ascension here is kind of interesting. But we only have the 1 red mana because of all the looting, or the sacrifices with Vraska. Holy crap, that is unlucky. Alright, so Ascension's probably looking better. We're getting to the point a lot of our draws are going to be activating the Ascension. Dying to the Goblins is not ideal, though. Our opponent is at a point, though, that they can't play more than 1 card a turn, otherwise the Mutavault can't attack. And Chandra just upped the clock to 2 turns. Wow, they're actually going to cast that? We have all 3 of our colors. I guess their Mutavault was shut off anyway, but that seems like an interesting decision. Okay, so we have Pyromancer's Ascension, and we're about to get our first trigger. Probably going to have to go after a Goblin because Chandra is 5 damage here. Versus 4 damage. Yeah, this gives us an extra turn. It's not the best use of our time, but... we definitely don't want to give them Mutavault back. Wow, and the Birds of Paradise. Alright, so... I think we're on Flashback Faithless Looting here. Wow. Okay, so kind of unfortunate draws here. Again, keeping the Faithless Looting. We're getting to the point that Ribbons with double activation is only 6, but we have 2 lands, so Ribbons costing a lot. This is not looking great. Looking back, probably the mistake was not leaving up the Bolt, although Ritual into a Rabble Master is in the early game. Alright, so I can cut here, get the 2 counters on Ascension. I can also Faithless Looting, but that won't do anything. Currently taking 4 damage. I think cut is probably our best shot here. Although if he ults and casts anything from his hand, we're dead. May as well just make sure he's not holding blanks, though. Can't activate the random map runes under the Blood Moon. Okay, that is game. Alright, so Blood Moon in the sideboard game plan is definitely not there. Dragon's Claw is kind of interesting, although it's probably not what we want to be doing. Maelstrom Pulse seems like another fantastic card to get around Chalice. Hazoret would have been a great draw. Vraska would have been a good draw. Manamorphose will give us fixing under the Blood Moon. These all can just remove it. Need to make sure we fetch out basics if we can. As far as what to cut out, the Noxious Revivals probably seem the worst. Being mono red, they might have Grafdigger's Cage. Wouldn't have Rip though. Bolt not getting around Chalice seems pretty bad. Actually, Faithless Looting's probably worse for that reason. We can just run it like that. Basics, birds, it's probably as good as it's going to get. Opponent being on the draw means that they might be able to put out a Gemstone Caverns. Wow, they're on the Leyline of the Void plan. Alright. Another good reason for Maelstrom Pulse. I thought being off color they might not be running that. So if they happen to play a land into Ritual, or Simian Spirit Guides, Abrupt Decay actually does get around Chalice. Opponent really likes their quick Rabble Masters. I don't think I can really fault them for that, though. It's a good card. Alright, so I can Abrupt Decay. I'm going to go for the riskier line with the higher upside and try to Faithless Looting into a land. We don't... Wow. We don't necessarily need all those birds, and Pyromancer's Ascensions are blanks, and this might be bad. Figured we were seeing 3 more cards. It wouldn't be that bad, but... we will have to take some beats here. Alright, so Assassin's Trophy can hit the Leyline of the Void. I really don't care about that yet. If you can't see, opponent just asked, what are you playing? I think we just have to Abrupt Decay the Rabblemaster for now. It really slows down the clock against us, and then if they don't answer any of our mana dorks, or they don't, or if they do and we draw a land, we can still handle a lot of this. Although we are taking a lot of beats. Yay, a land! Alright, so what does that mean for us then? We have Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy. Maelstrom Pulse on the Goblin tokens. Probably the best. Oh, we don't. The Copperline Gorge is red. So that just means Abrupt Decay and probably looking bad. So Planeswalkers are going to get really sketchy. They're just 1 mana off from it, so that's kind of okay. Yeah, that Pulse definitely clears some stuff up. So we're not under pressure anymore, although I'm guessing a land's going to change that. Okay, another mountain. I can Pulse the Blood Moon, fetch out a basic swamp. Assassin's Trophy, start beating in with Hazoret. It's probably not what we want to be doing. I can Assassin's Trophy a land in step and Hazoret. Chalice on 1, I kind of don't care about. So this allows me to at least start getting a clock on. Alright, I guess we're running it back. Opponent shouldn't have a way to deal with Hazoret. It'd need to be a Lava Coil or similar effect. I think Burn Within is probably the most modern playable of all those. Be interested to see if they go to. Yep. Going after the bird. Alright, so that means Hazoret's definitely coming down now. And then we can pulse the bridge on their turn, or on our next main phase. Might just need to pull Chandra. No, bridge will kill Chandra. Or that does something too. Oh, just need to have all the skill. And now it's on our opponent's top deck bridge or a way to kill us here. Jump blockers for days will help. I guess his attack each combat. So we're going to be taking 4 on the backswing. Suppose that works as well. Got opponent on a 3-turn clock. He's got me on 6. More lands won't do anything unless I draw Vraska, in which case kind of don't care. I'll be activating Hazoret. Although Koth would be bad. It looks like it might be a Banefire effect. Chalice on 2? That's fine. Alright, if our opponent's on another blank, it looks like we're going to steal this game. Alright, so what do I actually care about here? If they're on the Leyline of the Void, I think that means that Pyromancer's Ascension gets a lot less value. Is it enough for Dragon's Claw, though? Probably not. Looting definitely did lose a lot of the value there. Torpor Orb doesn't really do anything. Dragon's Claw is potential life gain. Looking at that possibly over the 2 Faithless Lootings. I can't imagine that's good enough, though. Faithless Looting is just such a great card engine if they're not on the Leyline plan. Opponent does choose to play first. Oh, we have basics. Those basics look delicious. We have the answer to a turn 2 Legion War Boss or Rabble Master. Basics and a finisher. This is fine. It'd be nice to have something to deal with their bridge, but we can attack on a different axis, so it's not like we absolutely need it. Wow, they mulled a 5 for Leyline. Chalice on 1, kind of don't care about that. I do want another, probably Forest here. Contemplating on which land to drop here. Overgrown Tomb will give us the black. Copperline comes in untapped. Either way, we're probably getting Blood Moon here. And I can't... We're not going to get locked under a Blood Moon. I'm just going to cycle the Manamorphose. This will give us all 3 colors, and then I actually think I want to get rid of some of these lands. Oh, yeah, Chalice, that's fine. Also good just emptying our hand a little bit so that Hazoret can start to attack. I forgot about the Chalice, but that was probably the correct play there. And again, I think I just want to empty my hand as much as possible. It's going to get countered, but just need to get rid of it. There's the Pulse. And let's see if they have a backup Chandra. I think the trick here is we just need to keep their clock low enough that if we do get into a top deck war, we'll have more wide answers and more flexibility in the cards that we get, and they're just going to draw redundant lock pieces. Pyromancer's Ascension, what does that actually mean? We've gone through 1 Maelstrom Pulse, which means we have 4 Assassin's Trophies and 1 Maelstrom Pulse that can deal with that in the deck. We can Abrupt Decay, the Chalice, but Faithless Looting won't get us anywhere, Bolt won't really get us anywhere. If we run out Hazoret, we can't discard. If we run out Hazoret and the Ascension, we can block. Oh, we don't have the second red. Okay, we might just be on Hazoret. And then regardless of what we draw next turn, we can play a land and discard to Hazoret. Oh, sorry, opponent. Ooh, Vraska is interesting. So I'm definitely going to run out Vraska and Abrupt Decay and then attack in. So what does that mean? Land, I can discard the Ascension as well. I think I'd rather sack the Ascension to Vraska than discard it to Hazoret. All right, that was game one. Interesting playing against Prison and having a wide suite of removal. I currently have in-game chat covered, but opponent was saying that our deck basically looks like nothing but removal, and it kind of is. Like, we could have dealt with the leyline if we cared about it, which is a lot of the flexibility of this deck is just the number of things that we can deal with. If you are on a linear game plan like Prison, we can typically take care of the things we don't like. If there's a Chalice on 2, Abrupt Decay still gets around it. If you have a Leyline, we have Maelstrom Pulses and Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophies. If you're banking on your 6 Planeswalkers like Mono Red Prison does just to end the game, and we have 6 answers for them, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But moving on to this game, we have a turn 1 Birds, Faithless Looting, Bolt, and Decay. That's a pretty wide suite. We don't really have any finishers, but this deck does try to make 1-for-1s along the way. And if we do happen to draw into something like Vraska, discarding the birds is fantastic. Or sacrificing the birds. Just becomes a redraw, a little bit of life gain. And kind of hope an opponent would have pushed the bird there, but that's fine. Wow. Goodbye, Wooded Foothills. Did not need that many of you. Alright, so far I'm pegging opponent on green-black X. Yep, looks like Jund. This is going to be a Goyf, so currently sorcery, land. So Termagoyf is an interesting card. Creatures don't die to damage, but to state-based action, so it being 3 toughness here means that if I were to Lightning Bolt it, it would be marked with 3 damage. Lightning Bolt would end up adding another card type to the graveyard, and so he would end up having 4 toughness, so my Bolt would not kill him. So what we're going to do here is we don't want that much of a beater around, we're just going to Abrupt Decay it. And looking a little rough here. Probably should have Faithless Looting first. So opponent's on 3 mana. It's probably a Lily of the Veil, given the fact that they're already on double black. I think I'm just going to hold my lands here. Or another Goyf. And a push on the bird. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so here I feel like it's correct to actually lead on the Manamorphose. We'd end up drawing a card, and then if we end up needing our other color, we can just play the land for it. Regular Faithless Looting is fine, and we are getting flooded beyond belief. So, discard the 2 basics, flashback the Faithless Looting. And let the struggles commence. Alright, gonna place a stop on my turn again. Noxious Revival, I care more about the life than the ability. Like, we've just been flooded. We have the lands, we may as well just pay mana for this. Although if we draw Vraska, that could... Oh no, because we want to draw the Abrupt Decay. Take our beads here. Want to draw the Abrupt Decay. Now, unfortunately, our opponent is on Jund, and they have 4 cards in hand where we have a Lightning Bolt. I am assuming that we are so far behind we're not coming back from this, but... There's Last Hope. May as well just bolt her now. So that was probably a mistake. If they do follow it up with a land and a second Last Hope, that's going to be unfortunate. But here they're going to be picking up the Glyph and replaying it anyway. Alright, definitely don't need another Mana Dork. So... looks like we'll be taking another Beats here. Wow, all right. And we don't have a single draw that will get us out of this. Alright, so Jund is the poster child for getting Blood Mooned. Definitely want that end. Torpor Orb doesn't really do anything. Ley Lines aren't going to affect them as much as we want them to. Manamorphose aren't very high impact. Graveyard Hate of Choice. Occasionally they have Ley Lines, but they care about having things in the graveyard to grow their Glyphs and to eat with Scoozes, and so a lot of them decide to run Grafdigger's Cages. It keeps everything in the graveyard, but stops a lot of those shenanigans. Noxious Revival is probably the cut here. Actually, comboing is going to be a decent finish if they try to make the game go long. They're going to make us discard a lot of cards in our hand, more than likely, though. Manamorphose just seems like the most obvious cut. Although that's the combo. I'd rather see the Noxious Revivals go, and then 2 Manamorphose. That might be where we're at. Alright, so Fastland, other color, Pyromancer's Ascension, a couple of removal spells. We can hang on to this. We're going to get discarded. That's probably going to be the Ascension. But if we're not going to see all of our lands in the top third of our deck, that'll be a huge improvement. Interesting. Opponent didn't have a discard spell. Probably leaving up Bolt. To be fair, they probably don't know what we're on yet. The only creature they've seen out of us so far is the Birds of Paradise, and we would have played that on turn 1 if we had it. We led on Wooded Foothills. Can definitely get a green source. Opponent might be on Brutality here. Looks like they opt out of that. Alright, so I was trying to figure out if it was worth leaving up Lightning Bolt and Assassin's Trophy and taking the shock. But drawing the fast land means it's going to come in untapped anyway, so let's see where that is. Also making it very hard to cast Blood Moon on ourselves here. I'm kind of alright with that. We had no way to activate it yet. Also help us with our own Blood Moon problems. Fulminator Mage. Again, okay with that. And we already know what they did. No point in floating mana. And we're going to check for another Assassin's Trophy. Don't really want to sacrifice any land yet. Holding up all of our interaction is going to be how we protect Vraska and actually make her useful. And a Bob. Bob seems like a prime target for cut. Although I think I'd prefer to lead on Faithless Looting because of that exact reason right there. Alright. Yeah, so I think right now we're getting rid of Assassin's Trophy and probably cut. We're just going to bolt Bob. And then have up bolt for the Raging Ravine that's going to go for Vraska, and then followed up with a Blood Moon, lock him out. Or we could just Abrupt Decay Bob and Blood Moon. Okay, so just because it looks like they're holding up Bolt, I guess if they have Bolt anyway, Blood Moon's still going to be castable. Or, sorry, Bolt's going to be castable to kill Vraska. That is the thought I was trying to complete. So... Yeah, let's Abrupt Decay Bob. If Vraska eats a Bolt here, she eats a Bolt. But if they try to activate Raging Ravine to take her down, we'll just Bolt in response. Yep. Calculated risk, but we should lock him out of the game with this Blood Moon. Can't imagine they had that read. Picking up the Bob. They know this is going to be a control match and they're falling behind on cards in hand. Alright, so I am more concerned with the Last Hope at the current moment. This will get us another green source, although I would prefer to see a black. That's going to allow them to have a Bob trigger. Yeah, that's fine. And then we have Bolt for our first counter on Ascendancy next turn. Wow, they had it in hand. Alright, so Manamorphose will get us our black mana here. Might draw us into another card if we get a counter on Ascendancy. That's going to be 2 bolts at the face, which means they need to take 9 off of Bob. I think we're just going to have to Manamorphose and try to top deck. Wow. Alright, then may as well Faithless Looting. And there's the black. Okay, so Assassin's Trophies can hit their basic. Forest and Decay probably just aren't worth it, and then get our first counter on one of the Bobs. So best top deck for us here would be a Manamorphose. Manamorphose would give us our counter and our black mana, and they have the Inquisition. prefer to have the Verdant Catacombs for a future Faithless looting. So if they have the Abrupt Decay or Assassin's Trophy on the Blood Moon, they have 4 mana to activate Raging Ravine with Goyf, which means we just might be dead next turn. Alright, Faithless looting. Wow. Well, we actually know they have the Bold in hand too, so GG's opponent. It definitely shows that the traditional Jund build is stronger. I assumed it was. It has the ability to put pressure on while still assuming the role of 1-for-1ing. And also not leaning on the back of the Pyromancer's Ascension completely, which we are. But still pretty interesting. Going back, this is the current deck view. So we have 10 instances of Abrupt Decay. 4 instances of looting, 4 redraws and Manamorphose. We could be a lot finisher heavier, but if you're going to be going for a traditional Jund build, Tarmogoyf is going to be it. He gets bigger with everything in the graveyard. Also better with the discard suite, but the discard suite gets worse with the Pyromancer's Ascension, which is the reason we're not running it in the first place. This is more reactive Jund, where our opponent was on the proactive stock build. Either way, it's been pretty fun. We've had a lot of answers. Really showed some strength against the Prison deck, where our opponent was just like, dude, you have all of the answers. Able to kill everything that came down. Maelstrom Pulse able to handle a lot of the leftover Goblin tokens after we 1-for-1 their bosses, but tokens did put a lot of pressure on us, and it's definitely a flaw with this deck. Could probably use a Damnation or two. We're not really constrained by Dark Confidant like our opponent was. But definitely an interesting playstyle. Assassin's Trophy has just been a fantastic card across the board. It was obviously pretty pushed, but it does some powerful things. And our match is taking a second to trigger here. The Birds of Paradise probably don't even really need to be in the deck. They're kind of there to help mana fix for the sideboard plan of Blood Mooning. It was a little unfortunate. Our opponent saw both of his basics there. Otherwise, we might have been able to take that a little bit longer. He would have had to have relied on Lightning Bolt and potentially Fulminator Mage. I think that was the only other red card he showed us, and the other stock card in Jund. Could probably go up more Vraska. She's just a powerhouse on by herself. But as I mentioned in the deck tech, expecting this to be a 3 or 4 out of 10. Like, it's got a lot of powerful cards in it, but the strategy just doesn't apply the pressure that it needs to. As far as this hand, we have a redraw in Manamorphose, no Ascension. We have our Assassin's Trophy, though, and our Hazoret. We are on the draw, so might see a little bit more action. I'm willing to give this a shot. Really depends on what our opponent's doing. If they're coming at us fast, it's going to be pretty painful. But it does look like they're on the mulligan plan. And another green-black deck. Alright, Redundant Assassin's Trophy helps quite a bit there. Assuming Wooded Foothills tells our opponent the least about what we're doing. Also, let's get a Blood Crypt so that we'll have all 3 mana on turn 2. Yep, there's the Thoughtseize. Probably taking Hazoret just from what they see here. It's going to take a lot of the finishers out of our deck. We're going to have to rely on the combo. As expected, down goes Hazoret. Opponent would need to be on Dismember in order to make that actually work. And interesting here, so reading our opponent, The Overgrown Tomb coming down second means that they were ready to follow it up with a second discard spell if they cared about it. More than likely, either that or they're on Jund and they're wondering if they needed their red source. Either way, that type of analysis is what actually gives you a lot more strength. Because you can start to see what they're trying to lead on. Also, them getting both colors here is also kind of telling of the fact that they might have a Liliana coming down. They saw both of our Assassin's trophies, which means it'll be a little bit harder to stick, but going for their mana this early typically means that they might be pushing for just generic fixing. Birds of Paradise looking like a great sacrifice for next turn. If opponent is holding Fatal Push, they might use it here. The Birds is not a priority target, and I imagine they have no idea what we're doing at this point. Field of Ruin coming down, though. I'm probably going to use this Manamorphose here. And should probably get black, since they took our black source. Oh, if I Manamorphose here, though, I can't Assassin's Trophy on their turn. So that's fine. We won't do that yet. They do go for the Fatal Push. Alright, I wouldn't have expected that, but that's fine. Inquisition. Does that change what I want to do here? No, I can take an Assassin's Trophy. So if this is the one that they're holding from turn 2, we might potentially even see a Thoughtseize in our future. Either that or they're just trying to clear the way for whatever they're dropping here. I'm expecting a Termaglyph or a Scavenging Ooze. Actually, no, they wouldn't cast a tracker yet. They know we have the removal. And our opponent is F6'd. Alright, that's fine. Ooh, what does that mean? I think it just means Vraska needs to come down. They have to have a very specific answer for her here. And given the fact that we have the mana for Pyromancer's Ascension and Assassin's Trophy, I'm not going to sack anything. Now, I know some lists have been toying with Vraska's Contempt. It's more likely to see a Hero's Downfall, though, or the Assassin's Trophy. Okay, gonna get our Mountain in case we need to bolt something here. Also gives us all 3 of our basics. Alright, so holding Overgrown Tomb at this point because we can always play it and sacrifice it if we draw our last Vraska. Otherwise, we're going to want to have it for Faithless Lootings. And we'll see if our opponent... Well, opponent would have actually Assassin Trophy on their end step. They might not have another one. Okay, gonna eat the Hazoret. We'll see if they have another play, though, and leave it open. They know we have an Assassin's Trophy, so they might just let it go. So this should be eat the Hazoret. Oh, they ate the Assassin's Trophy. I guess that makes sense. They know we have one in hand. And again, holding the Overgrown Tomb for a Faithless Looting. I'm perfectly happy with that. Good target for cut. Alright, so let's actually think about statistical significance here. We have 41 cards left in deck. We currently have seen 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our lands. That means 16 of our 41 are lands. It's not worth fetching, but I do actually believe now it's correct to get our second black source into play, because Ribbons is going to require that. And we have to answer this. The card advantage is going to get too out of control here. And I didn't look at what land came down. My dog's bugging me to go out. Alright, so that was a punt. That actually might be game-ending punt here, but hopefully we can draw it out. This deck could probably use some man lands. Despite the fact that we have Blood Moon in the sideboard, we don't necessarily have to put an untapped land into play every turn. Alright, so assuming we get Pyromancer's Ascension active, we have to Ribbons for 9, which means 11 mana. We're currently at 6. I think it's fine to put out another Copperline Gorge, considering that's looking like our best out at the moment. A Manamorphose into like a Bolt, and then follow it up with Ribbons. Alright, so that's going to put a slow enough clock on us. They're probably going to pick up the tracker, though. Oh, they're going for the ultimate. Because they have a Goyf. I still probably would have picked up the tracker. Alright, Assassin's Trophy. I care more about the Goyf. I could have had an online Ascension if I wasn't trying to look at the dog. So he only has a green available, and now is probably the correct time. Always yes, always yield. And then I do not currently have a Faithless Looting in the bin. 4, 5, 6, 7. This would be 8, so I could Ribbons for 6, get 1 copy. It's Ribbons for 5. I think it's still correct to hold this for looting. Wow, 2 main board. I saw a post on Reddit about people doing this. I still don't actually think that's correct, though. I think it's in response to the Phoenix decks that are going around. Alright, I think just have to run that out. We're not going to have any creatures that die from our side. They're going to have to play out zombies, which I think Last Hope is the only way that they actually get zombies. Currently looking at a 6-turn clock from Kalitas, though. If we add in the Hissing Quagmire, that's 4. This becomes an elemental. Yep, green elemental. Oh, this lifelink makes the Ribbons plan significantly worse. We might need to find another answer for that. Alright, so Bolt turns on Ascension. Ribbons is currently to 5, would be 10. could be 12. It's still probably correct to hold this because we're going to have to bolt the Hissing Quagmire to turn on the Ascension. We're also on a 4-turn clock if we bolt the Quagmire. Or we're just going to bolt our opponent. They're going to stay at 20 and we are on a 3-turn clock as opposed to 4. Is this from hand? No, it is not. Alright, Manamorphose is going to double. This is where the deck starts to get fun. So we get 4 mana, draw 2 cards. And it may have actually been correct to fetch here first. We're going to draw enough cards here. We could probably activate this Ascension this turn, but I'd rather have discard fodder and actually just go for live action. We can discard these 2. Discard these 2. Manamorphose. Alright, probably actually should have kept that first Ascendancy. I didn't realize we were going to run like this, though. We drew a lot of our Manamorphose. Alright, this time I'm going to run out the second Pyromancer's Ascension because we can activate it with the cards in hand. Always yield, always yes. Discard birds and fetch land. Don't like discarding the bolt here, but it's probably our best play. Get an Assassin's Trophy that. Get our additional counter. This one's going to target Hissing Quagmire. Then end step, this is going to be 3 bolts, and then Ribbon should be able to kill them. Bob doesn't do anything. And that should be lethal. So if we saw Noxious Revival there, we could have actually Manamorphosed and put a card, a Manamorphose, back on top of our library. And that would have gone infinite. Really didn't need it. The Ribbons was going to be able to kill it. Oh, hi, Brad1. I'm showing 0 viewers in OBS. How long were you watching? I'm glad you're able to see the combo. Alright, so green-black, as opposed to Jund, Blood Moon doesn't really do as much here. Maelstrom Pulse is actually really good, though. It can snag us a 2-for-1 in an attrition war. I would say that green-black is much more likely to have Leyline of the Void on the side. Oh. That was a good time to come in. It did very poorly against Jund, and I probably need to update my record. So for match, we're currently 1-0. I'm so bad at this. Then we beat Prison. We lost to Jund, and I think that's all we've done so far. I think we're in Game 3. By the way, you're welcome to join me in Discord if you'd like. You're probably raiding, though. As far as cuts, Noxious Revival is interesting to get some of our unconditional removal. If they are on the Leyline plan, I'm guessing looting's probably less efficient. That might be best there. I can't imagine they keep their Fatal Pushes in just for the birds, although that could be a consideration. Dies to a lot of their removal. I think we just need to run it like that. And 0 lander. That's not going to work. That's tempting. We're on the draw. We have 2 mana dorks. Yeah, we're going to keep that. And don't need a 3rd mana dork. Inquisition, Thoughtseize is going to take a bird. Possibly Bolt if he's planning on following this up with a Confidant next turn. Not our strongest hand. I could totally see losing this. Opponent can't figure out if they want to try to take our Bolt and get card advantage off Confidant, or just land Goyf and try to wrap it up, or if he should take one of the birds since we're obviously light on mana. Scrying to the bottom is a huge tell that we ended up missing our land off of our Scry. And he's going for the mana. Oh well, we have 24 lands, and deck doesn't want to give us one. That's fine. We will see if he has the push. One of the nice things about green-black is not having Bolt. Bolt's a little more flexible in where it goes and can either hit us or a Planeswalker if we don't have a birds early enough. Push is only going to get birds and possibly the indestructible side of a Hazoret. Alright. Duress. We'll see what it actually cares about. I'm assuming it's going to be Abrupt Decay. Anything he plays is going to... Oh, he's going after the Vraska. Joke's on you, opponent. We don't have 2 lands. We really don't have 2 lands. Yay! Having a hard time picturing what our opponent's on here. An Assassin's Trophy in a land is not good enough. May as well just let this go. So what do we actually care about? I think I want a basic forest here, and then that means Wooded Foothills probably getting a Blood Crypt. So expecting a Kalatos to come down if he has the 4th land. Inquisition. Yep, your pick opponent. Pretty redundant hand. Going for the Decay, which means we might see a Tireless Track. No, he would have played it first. Yep, there's the Goyf. Alright, so the consideration here is if I Assassin's Trophy the Goyf at any point in time, he's going to get an untap land to be able to Assassin's Trophy us. But since that's the case, I'm just going for it now. He's going to get an untapped land and then be holding up interaction for us, but seeing as we had no lands in on the mole, and he started off with discard, multiple discard, this is about as good as we're going to get. Stopping our draw step. Do you want us to try to get another land? Oh, that's fun. Wonder what that was hedging for. He probably wanted to get our Faithless Looting, but had no action in his hand other than the Goyf. Might also just be trying to figure out what's going on. It's not like this deck is very stock anywhere. Okay, you found the 2 in the deck. You can click on the 2 in the discard pile, although I don't really care about those. Probably getting out a snipping tool. Take the screenshot. I left him in the deck. Okay. Sorry, opponent, you misclicked. On the plus side, I'm not going to do anything with them. Or maybe he left them. That might have been what he was trying to figure out. If he could leave them for Goyf. And there's another Goyf. Manamorphose. So opponent has 1 card in hand. The only card it could be that I kind of care about is Surgical Extraction. But he would have cast it by now. Gonna run out Manamorphose and see where we're at. That'll be super sad if we draw Vraska. We did not. And I actually think I'm just going to use this time to land Pyromancer's Ascension. It's going to be a Assassin's Trophy check from opponent, and most likely to get something done for us. That Faithless Looting was not the best timed. At the very best, I was discarding the Lightning Bolt. But Bolt wasn't going to do anything in this board state and had the mana up for Abrupt Decay. And Scooz is probably enough to start calling it here. He's got 2 activations up. I'm currently on a 3-turn clock. If I see a Vraska, it's probably worth sticking around another turn for. Potentially a Manamorphose chaining into something ridiculous. But if I cast Metamorphose, I'll still get my trigger. Taking the bolt. Ugh. Alright, so Pyromancer's Ascension. He's going to have 3 activations. Going to get Abrupt Decay. Yeah, this game's over. Did I see anything I care about here? Nope. Early discard's gonna hurt. Surgical's gonna hurt. Don't really have ways to interact with that, though. Faithless Looting is still probably fine as a 2 of. Opponent has my deck list, though. I could Birds of Paradise, Noxious Revival, the Verdant Catacombs. Put out a Pyromancer's Ascension. I really don't want to mulligan any lower because he's shown that he has at least 6 discard spells between the Inquisitions and the Thoughtseizes. Yeah, I probably just have to run with this. Opponent was mulliganing for Graveyard Hate more than likely. So assuming they do have a Surgical for when I go to Noxious Revival, I want the Stomping Ground. It'll let me cast the most in hand. And opponent's F6, so I'm just going to go for it now. Yep, there's the Inquisition, probably taking the Assassin's Trophy or the Lightning Bolt here. Probably Lightning Bolt because I'll have the ability to Pyromancer's Ascension into Lightning Bolt if they have a turn 2 play. Wow, went for the trophy. Might be on the Planeswalker plan then. So the scariest thing here is probably going to be Assassin's Trophy on the Pyromancer's Ascension into Surgical. But that's still a 2 for 2. But for the time being, I will kill Bob. I've been finding that I like having multiple reds when I'm trying to storm off, so I'm going to go for the red-black as opposed to the red-green. Wanted to get in with the birds to show a message, but I could be representing Bolt here. Alright, so this won't be the best use of my Maelstrom Pulse, but seeing as Skooz gets rid of cards in graveyards and I have 2 Pyromancer's Ascensions active, I think that's what I gotta do. And this time I am gonna send a message. No cards in hand, nothing to represent. I've done a lot of damage to myself so far this game. Alright, so holding the Overgrown Tomb for Faithless Looting again. If I do draw something like Vraska, I can just put it down, take another shock. Going to 8, maybe 9, or 8, maybe 7 off this Goyf. It's getting a little painful. Opponent also has action where we don't. And this one's slipping away pretty fast. Another time where having a Damnation would be good. Alright, so running out the Verdant Catacombs here because I'm basically dead on the crackback anyway. I want to have the 4 mana down for... I'm going to have to chump block, and then that will give me potentially 5 mana if something goes down. Opponent whiffs on the Thoughtseize. Gonna need some very good running to get out of this, though. Goodbye, birds. I honor your sacrifice. You did good for my second land. Ooh, and a Bob. Yeah, it'd pretty much be Damnation here or bust. So cracking here, it's not statistically relevant that I get a land out of my deck, but seeing as I have no other options, that's the game. Alright, well, that one was a little bit of rough running, but green-black, very strong deck. Updating record, let's jump back into queue. So I typically shouldn't care about discard all that much. It'd be nice to get some card advantage going. That is one of the more powerful things that the blue version of this deck does, is has Serum Visions and Ops to get more card draws. I was really only able to go off because of the Manamorphose card draw and the Faithless Looting filtering me into it. But a lot of the red card draw is kind of hard to pull off, requires rummaging, and keeping cards in hand has been an issue for this deck. Alright, as far as this hand, we have a turn 3 Hazoret, as well as turn 2 Assassin's Trophy Faithless Looting. I'm good with that. We are on the draw. Hopefully it's not another green-black X variant. Although, this dude's name is the Tormaggoyf. Yep. Alright. So running against the Rock for 3 games in a row. And I'm a bad Rock deck. I'll just put that in perspective for a moment. Opponent's probably trying to figure out what the heck is going on. What about the overlay? Opponent didn't actually say something. I just assumed when he looked at my hand he had no clue what was going on. So running out Copperline Gorge did actually tell our draw here, but it came in untapped. Urborg would give me black off of any of these fetch lands, and I just want to get the birds down. It does telegraph them that they get the Assassin's Trophy if they discard again, but a lot of mana issues so far. Discard and mana issues. Hey, Brad1, how would you feel about a second Manamorphose card getting printed? Maybe one at 3 mana that gave you 3 mana? What's fixed now?
The overlay.
Welcome to the stream, Brad1. You're the only one in chat. Oh, that's painful. And opponent is actually on Black Devotion. Phyrexian Obliterator does not do well against Assassin's Trophy. Alright, so opponent Thought Seizes. I could Assassin's Trophy in response, although I think Hazoret's going to make me go the distance this game. The opponent also looks like they might be on... This is looking more and more like a rack build than a Mono Black Devotion build. I actually think I'm going to go for the Land Destruction on Urborg. I think they might need it for the stack. If they just slam another one, I'm going to be sad, but... Mentality behind this play eventually comes down to let's give them less choices. If they're more fearful of the Assassin's Trophy than they are of the Hazoret, at least I'm getting a land out of this option. Otherwise, they just take the Hazoret and I'd have the Assassin's Trophy in hand. They clearly didn't value their current Phyrexian Obliterator very well. So they might have a second one, but Hazoret versus the Obliterator is not going to do a whole lot. I think he actually wins that fight. And Skoo, so it is the rock. Interesting. Alright, so definitely want to get rid of some of these lands here. Abrupt Decay should be able to handle the Scavenging Ooze. Probably. Oh, come on. All the discard. And all the lands. I was contemplating flashing back the Faithless Looting there. I think I'd prefer the Skoos eat it and not grow at the current moment, seeing as the opponent's only on 1 green. They're probably going to be more inclined to go for the Faithless Looting than the Birds of Paradise, and Bolt could be a potential out here. Or he just has mainboard Nihil Spellbomb. Alright, this is looking very bad. So that puts me on Hazoret or Vraska. Vraska's going to require Hazoret. Well, that's the Bolt to kill the Skoos. At least puts us back at parity, although I have the feeling the opponent's holding the Phyrexian Obliterator. And given the fact that they're on mono discard, probably a Liliana of the Vel. Alright, so Noxious Revival. Do I actually want to put the Obliterator back on top of their deck? No, the Obliterator is going to be a potential out. I do want to put the Inquisition back on top of their deck, though. It's going to be a blank for the rest of the game. Brutality is apparently where we're at this game. Alright, so on the plus side, I have a lot of outs to Turmgoyf left in my deck. But that's going to kill us in 2 turns. We've seen 2 Brutalities. I run 3 mainboard in my paper deck. But opponent ended up, yeah, not going to show them the Pyromancer's Ascension. That's just game. Okay, so they are just on straight green-black. But they have mainboard Graveyard Hate. They have an Obliterator, which is probably enough reason to bring the Pulses in. So far, I think Pulses probably need to be mainboard in this deck. It does a lot. Yeah, it looks like we're just cutting the Faithless Looting again. Man, I would have loved to have been a Tron player running through this league play against Prison that you're just going to go over the top of, and then green-black variants that you just go over the top of. It's a little bit of rough running for this deck, though. Alright, so we have no red mana, but we have an Assassin's Trophy and an Abrupt Decay. We're going to get discarded into Oblivion, though, so this 5-card hand is probably worth keeping. It's not going to be those 5 cards that we keep, but that's enough argument for me to not try to go down to 6. And no discard. And we got red mana. Yay! And then we're going to put our opponent to the Assassin's Trophy test, and getting us a basic land is perfectly okay at this point since we have no redundant spells. So I don't like this line. I try to never make this line when I'm playing this deck. Putting out Scavenging Ooze on turn 2 when it's relevant to your opponent's deck just means it's going to get bolted every single time. I'd prefer to put it down similar to Tireless Tracker a turn late with at least 1 activation that I believe is going to be important. And that's a prime reason why. I can't fault opponent, especially if their hand is full of action, but like if they miss their land drop and don't do anything here, I do think that's a poor play. Well, that makes a little bit more sense. I'm still not the biggest fan of it. Especially if they eat our... yeah. Eating our thing there doesn't make much sense to me. We'd have to have another bolt in hand or ready to play for that to be impactful. Now we're just getting rid of some of the best cards in this matchup against them. Phyrexian Obliterator! Respect, opponent. But unfortunately, he's not going to do anything. And yes, opponent, I did wait until end step. Yay, birds! Do your thing. Now, if there's another Obliterator, that's going to feel bad. He apparently had a 1-mana play last turn, but didn't want to do it this turn. Alright, well, this is weak to Maelstrom Pulse, but as we have a single activation in hand, at the very least on Birds of Paradise here, I think that's the correct play. If opponent's running Phyrexian Obliterator, that's probably the top end of their curve. They're not running the Maelstrom Pulses. And looks like we can actually turn on our Pyromancer's Ascensions. And now I'm also significantly feeling better about the Maelstrom Pulse. We can always decay the one that they target if it comes to it. I am so curious what opponent has to have in hand, though. And that is some action right there. Looks like they drew into another Obliterator, which means I might actually be popping the birds to get a double Manamorphose. Oh, I probably should have killed birds in response to that. That works too. So this blanks my Abrupt Decay, but that's probably fine. And then gonna hold on to the mountain at this point for Faithless Looting. At this point, I know I can protect it, so just going to run it out. I can still activate it with the Abrupt Decays. And probably should have ran out the mountain there just so I could activate both. I think I have to let him take one of these. Likely going to take the Manamorphose, but I don't want to draw into something I actually care about and have him have the option to discard it. This is also going to make it so that he will only run out Obliterators in the future. And it's probably worth holding two things I can discard to Faithless Looting. Alright, so that's action I actually really care about right there. So I can Abrupt Decay if I need to and Manamorphose. Depending on what my opponent does here, I might actually just take out my third Pyromancer's Ascension so I can draw 2 cards. Sorry, 3 cards. That just gets so good if he plays anything. Alright, so I don't think opponent knows how this works, but I'll go ahead and let him start tapping out for it. So he has to know that we drew Manamorphose, and he's going to have to eat Manamorphose in response to the Abrupt Decay. Yeah, I don't think opponent understands how this works. We're still getting the counters. If he goes for the Manamorphose here, I'm definitely going to eat this just so I can trigger the other one. Yeah, sorry opponent, it doesn't work like that. I missequenced. If I actually cast Manamorphose first, I could have Abrupt Decayed, got the counters, and then gotten the extra card. Now I'm going to have additional Abrupt Decays that can't target anything. Adding red-green here. Ooh. Okay, let's let Scavenging Ooze die. Not going to copy Abrupt Decay. So what do I need to do to go infinite with this? I can Noxious Revival, put Manamorphose on top of the deck, and then I'd need another Noxious Revival. I definitely want that Manamorphose if my opponent lets me have it. I can't imagine that he does. What happened? Did he not activate? No, he didn't. I'm so confused. Why did that target my Pyromancer's Ascension? I didn't target it, and there's still a legal target of the Skoos on the battlefield.
Wasn't that his replicate?
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was so confused there. Okay, so I believe I'm sequencing this correctly, where I can put Pyromancer's Ascension on... Actually, I don't want that Pyromancer's Ascension because I have no way to trigger it. So, yeah, we'll just do same targets. So adding red-green here because red-green, everything's a swamp thanks to Urborg. And more lands. Alright. Well, with the Ascension active, we are hitting a point where it's going to be statistically significant because we're going to draw so many cards. Going to want to use a fetch land to pull a land out and still hold up some discard fodder for Faithless Looting. Plus, Cut to Ribbons is going to need lands to become lethal. And this clock isn't remotely fast enough that I care about killing it. It is also getting to the point that Assassin's Trophy can start being strip mine. Like, our opponent can't have too many more basics if they're running Phyrexian Obliterator, and being able to hit 2 lands is going to just make it easier to start taking all the basics out. On second thought, since I haven't seen my action yet and I'm getting a free cast here, I think I will kill the Kitchen Finks. Plus gets a bolt into the graveyard if I draw another one to get the second one active. And again, fetching here just because if I see a Manamorphose or a Faithless Looting, I'm going to see a lot of cards, and it will become significant that there are less lands in my deck at that point. With Urborg out, that should have been a stomping ground. Wait, hello, Manamorphose. I'll definitely cast you. So this is turning on my other Ascension. And drawing me 2 cards. And Hazoret is actually a real clock here, so I'm just going to go and start killing him. Hey Brad1, how do you feel about Hazoret being a finisher in this deck? Tossed up the
Looks good.
deck list for you. I'm either going to be drawing a lot of cards or I'm going to be really light on cards, and that was kind of the mentality there, and this is really hard to answer. He has to have a Dismember for Hazoret to not be lethal. think he's going for Obliterator here, and we're going to get 3 Assassin's Trophy activations. Yep, picks up the Obliterator.
I missed at the start. How many Faithless Lootings did you keep?
I currently have 2 Faithless Lootings in because he was showing me Skoos and was thinking, sorry, Skoos, Nihil Spellbomb, main board. Real quick question though, how do you feel about 2 mana destroy 3 permanents?
Yeah, that seems pretty good.
This deck had hopes and dreams, and this moment right here is exactly why it had hopes and dreams. And apparently he's out of basics. So 3 basics in the Phyrexian Obliterator deck. I think in Game 3 that means Blood Moon's coming in.
Yeah, that's for sure coming in.
Thanks to this Misty Rainforest, Hazoret's going to be lethal on the backswing. Opponent is one of those few green-black players that didn't start on Jund and get touched too many times by Blood Moon in a bad place.
Lessons will be learned today.
Oh, do I cut Hazoret so I can Ribbon's opponent for lethal?
Keep it a secret.
Well, I'm gonna have. Yeah, it's not like opponent can kill me here. I can always discard it to Hazoret if need be. Ribbons is a secret tech that gets around Leyline of Sanctity and a lot of interaction from the opponent, and as long as I don't draw Ribbons here, I'm basically pretty happy. Sorry, opponent, I wasn't trying to do bad manners. I was actually trying to hide my cut to Ribbons. Alright, so Blood Moon comes in. Does that mean Faithless Looting comes out? It seemed like you were curious on how many we kept in. Was that just because I was playing with Faithless Looting as an out by keeping the lands?
Yeah.
I think that just has to come out, and then probably a... I don't know, I like Manamorphose. It gives me black in case I end up Blood Mooning myself early enough. Assassin's Trophy will get them one of their 3 basics. But also kills their planeswalkers. Cut of birds? Yeah, this game might go long. That's a good point. Cut of birds and then probably just an Ascension since they were packing so much graveyard hate.
Yeah, that's fair.
This deck is a complete pile though. It has a lot of fun cards in it and then like 4 impact cards. Oh my gosh, I don't think I can keep this. Being on the draw, if they discard birds, I just have no action. Wow, into a no-lander. Alright, things are looking spicy. And Blood Moon. Alright, well, this is rough, but opponent's on 6. Manamorphose is a redraw. Also will be my black mana. May as well bottom it. I want lands. Hard lands. Ah, they brought in ley lines and mold to them. And if they're on discard, it's Collective Brutality, which means that the Blood Moon's safe. And they're only on Urborg. We might get this just off of Greedy Mulligans here. Tap it. Tap it.
I would have saved the wooded right there. You can still tap it for black, and then it lets you try to draw into another land.
Oh, that's fair. That's actually really fair. Alright, so am I actually trophying his Verdant Catacombs to force the action? I don't want to give him a basic for Blood Moon. I think I just have to pass here.
Yeah.
Then if the greed is real, he will go for Liliana here, off of a non-basic. I can just slam Blood Moon and then pulse. That works too. I just need a land. Come on, Purdy land. Basic swamp if I'm feeling greedy. Bah humbug. Deck, I have 24 lands. Why did I have to mulligan so hard to get 2 lands? Wow, that is painful. That is very painful. Alright, let's see what he can do. I lose access to black, though, which was a lot of my interaction here.
Bolt at least buys you another turn.
It also pretty significantly slows down the clock, but I needed black in order to clean up what he had. Maelstrom Pulse on the ley lines, and then Abrupt Decays and Assassin's Trophies could just start putting up counters on Pyromancers, and I guess Manamorphose is still in out. I believe I have 3 left, although one's on the... No, I shuffled. Alright, well, I have 3 turns. I think this puts me on another Blood Moon. Dear opponent, look how awkward my draw was. Urborg's still legendary. Noxious Revival there, forcing my opponent to draw the Urborg again, make it so that he at least has a blank in hand. If he ends up seeing a Swamp, I am 2 Collective Brutalities away from dying, even without creatures on the field. Oh, opponent might actually just time out here, depending on how bad their draw is. I have 2 Swamps and 3 Manamorphose to draw into. That's 5 of 38.
You could also draw into a hazard.
Hazoret would allow me to start activating and discarding stuff. Faithless Looting would draw me deeper in. Oh, he got a Swamp.
Does he have the Collective Brutality? That answers my question.
So I went for the ley lines there. I don't think that was correct. I think I need to leave up removal here, but this at least starts drawing me a little bit more live.
How many swamps did you have? 2?
I believe it was 2 Swamps and a Forest. Double black. What does he have double black at instant speed? Or potentially black-green.
Might have a replicate for your Pyro.
Oh, that could be the case. Although, if he's using his last basic land for Abrupt Decay on Pyromancer's Ascension, I think that just means I win by him timing out. Oh, did he take his Forest out? Or did he just think that wasn't worth it?
Forest turns on a lot of things for him.
Yeah, Forest would be a creature for his turn, though, and then I have Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay. Or cut. And he also looked at my hand, which means he knows that there's a suite of removal in there. He's gonna have to go into Swamp Collective Brutality to kill me, I believe.
I thought he only ran 2 swamps.
I thought he only ran 2 swamps as well.
So unless he boarded more in. We didn't show him the Blood Moons game too, so...
Yeah, it was because he didn't fetch a third one that I even brought in the Blood Moon. I probably should be holding fetches. It's not like I can crack them.
It gives you more damage to cut to ribbon.
I can't crack them, though. Oh,
Yeah,
Urborg. He would have to crack the... Yeah, I'm going to start holding lands. At least it's Hazoret activations. Really interesting game with us just passing. Yay, Blood Moon. I mean, if he has another swamp, he has a shot, but that's about it. I guess it's correct here just to run out the Blood Crypt. Guess that was a reason. And then that puts ribbons in the yard. And that's a lot of black mana. What does the text on Hazoret say? Does she actually deal the damage when you discard a card?
I believe that discards the activation cost.
Right, but if I give my creatures Death Touch with Vraska and then discard, does that actually kill my opponent?
I would need to read Vraska.
Oh, it steals combat damage. Alright, so I'm actually going to make my move here. I'm going to Abrupt Decay my birds so that I can just swing in for lethal if I draw Vraska. Oh, I mistapped. Oh well.
There it is.
And got the Vroska emblem kill with Hazaret, which is not what I was expecting at all. Whew, boy. Feeling a little winded after that one. But gotta say, 2-2 is a lot better than I was expecting. I feel like that's a situation where opponents should have just scooped it up, though. They're probably a little bit on the salty and they got Blood Mooned.
Blood Moon 3 times.
On an opponent that was stuck on 2 lands until turn 5. Clearly they knew they didn't have any outs. They would have had to have drawn into their forest and then actually been able to play a creature. Like when I started gaining life with Vraska and having up all that removal that they saw, they probably should have just called it a day there, but I can't fault them too hard for trying to hold it out. It does feel like the deck needs more Hazarets, though, or at least more finishers. It is kind of cute that when Pyromancer's Ascension is going, Ribbons is good, but Cut and Ribbons alone don't seem like they're worth it. Cut does hit a lot of things like Hollow One, but I don't know, there's a lot of better finishers out there. Vraska being Abrupt Decay 9 and 10 was really cute on paper, but she could be something stronger, especially if she can just stick around and do her ultimate. I shouldn't have to wait to get into that Hazaret. Just please don't be green-black. Be something quick. I don't even mind if we die at this point. Like, Dredge would be great. Just see if we get there. Going on 2 hours, 15 minutes already. Abrupt Decay also seems a little narrow to want to double up on. Like, there are moments like when I could hit that Scooze that knowing that the Abrupt Decay was going to be a blank was a little painful. Some red card draw would be fun. I wonder if like trying to cheese in a Wheel of Fate would be good. But that put us back on the Electro Dominance plan. This hand, we have a Fast Land, a Birds, an Abrupt Decay, a Manamorphose, and a Bolt. That's basically what this deck wants to do. And it's Storm!
Well, you kept a good hand for it.
Kill their dorks? Were you being sarcastic?
Yeah. That's all you got going for you.
So, I don't actually think I need to shock here. Cascade Bluffs is Dorn, isn't it? That's for when you misclick on Manamorphose. I mean, that's being playful.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't take the 2 damage. Make it as difficult as possible for him.
Interesting. So, do I just Manamorphose here for the redraw?
I'd keep it.
See if they've got the remand. Oh, they're F6ing. Ooh, pretty mountain. Fulminator. I'm not actually sure I know what's going on here. Is this a new blue-red living end? Yeah, that's fine. So, if I Manamorphose into Hazoret, I'd want a player. If I Manamorphose... Given the fact that they're blue, I think I actually do want to try to get my Ascension online. Oh boy. Okay, kind of expecting Blood Moon, just because they're on the Fulminator plan. So they do have Cryptic mana up. It's so weird. They're playing Spirebluff Canal like they want to do stuff before turn 3. Okay, so it is Living End. So, expecting the birds to die, I'd prefer to tap them down.
Yeah.
And going after my black mana, I do think I want to cycle the Manamorphose here. Placement land is fine, but nothing special. Ooh, woo, not concede. Do I actually want to run out my Ascension here? That would have been a reason to save that second Manamorphose.
Yeah, you do.
I'm just afraid of the Cryptic command. I know mono blue living in was a thing in the past. And mono blue ran 4 Cryptic commands. Well, they're probably going to bounce it if they don't counter it, so may as well just get the Cryptic out. Yep, there it is. Oh, remand? That's fine. Alright, so I was toying with the idea of doing this deck, but with Kiki combo in it. So, I'm a little afraid I'm just going to get comboed here at an end step. Is it Charm? Yep, as expected. If they do go for the combo here, I at least have Bolt. But I can't really respect the opponent's decision to run Spirebluff Canal in a Cryptic deck. But we're about to get Drowned in card advantage while we have a bunch of random removal.
That's painful.
So right here, I believe it's correct to put the Bolt out, just because it'll get a Bolt in our graveyard for the potential future Ascension. And I don't want to give them another step. Oh, I don't have black.
Yeah, you have to use your Metamorphose.
That is rough. That's really rough. Okay, do I Faithless Looting for a land here? If they do Izzet Charm and go for the win, I'm going to be in a weak spot. We've gotten rid of 2 Asphotolds, though, and 1 Living End. They just threw 3 cards off Ancestral. That can't be right. So for those unaware, what our opponent doing is cycling creatures. They discard them to draw a replacement card. Then they're using As Foretold or the new card from Ravnica, Electro Dominance, to be able to cast a spell for 0 for free. And that's going to be Living End, bringing everything from the graveyard back into play. Seeing the Riverwinder makes me think that they're just on an updated list of the mono blue one as opposed to being on Twin Combo, which is a... I'm alright with that. I mean, I don't really want to deal with a 5/5 hexproof, but that's better than just getting killed out of nowhere. And I think I'm looting here. I just care about my card quality more than anything right now. Another instance where Damnation would be good. Definitely needs to be somewhere in this deck. I don't run any creatures. Doubling it doesn't really do anything, but I just need to be able to kill board. Is this the draw discard? Electro Dominance for 5.
So they're about to draw 5. Oh no, wrong card.
Okay, so I have Abrupt Decay up if I take the shock. That doesn't really do anything. I can bolt. I think my best shot here is just to chump block with one of the birds and try to go infinite next turn, although they have 5 cards in their blue, so that won't work. That would have been nice to get counters, but I'd rather not take the damage and then have them sack it. I also want my black mana to stick around. So I can Manamorphose. I want to leave up the black, though. And that's game. Alright, so Leyline of the Void going to come through here. I didn't see a ton of basics. They're also trying to cast Cryptic Command, so Blood Moon's a consideration. Maelstrom Pulse, their bigger creatures have Hexproof. They can still cast half their deck through Blood Moon, and they're going to be on Fulminators anyway. That's not going to kill any of their creatures, and I think Abrupt Decay is going to matter for the uncounterable for the As Foretold's. Probably don't need a bird and a Vraska.
Yeah, I would think cut Vraska. At least keep him one just as a finisher, in my opinion.
Keep in
Since
one
you
what?
do have cut to ribbon. I would keep one in at least.
That's fair.
If you're going infinite with Metamorphose and things like that.
Yeah, Bolt's not going to do as much, but it can still do quite a bit, and I'm assuming I'm not hitting most of their creatures with Bolt. And I basically just have to molt a Leyline here, otherwise I don't have a shot. Well, that's not great. So Bird's going to let me have a turn one play. Oh no, because I'm going to have to crack Wooded Foothills. Okay, so I need green and red probably. Yeah. Saddest hand ever, and then my lands are going to get wrecked by their next Fulminator Mage. Well, prime example of why the style of deck doesn't work. There's just no pressure, and an opponent gets to do a lot of what they want. And Faithless Loon didn't even get us our third land. It is a little weird that they're cycling into the Leyline of the Void. That must mean that Cryptic's their only bounce spell. They didn't bring in Echoing Truth or anything along those lines. Did they have another Ancestral? They're already going to have to discard 2 cards. Interesting.
Wow.
So there might have been an argument there to wait on the Abrupt Decay. I'm likely not doing anything during my turn anyway, and it would change the way that they decide to discard. But I don't think that's worth it. Opponents also on Engineered Explosives as a 2-color deck. And Blood Moon would actually get them very good here. It was a little interesting that they decided to discard Living End last. They must still think that game plan's going to work. cuts coming through. The 4 toughness is what a lot of people consider when putting cards into their deck. It gets around Bolt. Cut to Rivens does feel very playable, but that might just be because we're cheesing its mana. Cryptic, bounce Leyline. Yep. This is where a Goyf would be great. It's pretty apparent that traditional Jund is better than this, but this is a pretty fun deck when it goes off. More fairies. Yeah, they're crafting their hand. I don't think we're going to be able to do anything about this one. Looks like they're about to slam an As for Told and then Living End us. Oh, they Ancestraled.
We draw black mana, can we Leyline and get rid of their creatures?
It doesn't get rid of things that are currently in the graveyard. It only takes care of future placements. Yep, it's not Rip.
That's the Death and Taxes player in me.
So I feel like it's correct here to hold the Wooded Foothills so that I can jam Leyline after they do something. I also don't want to see new creatures go into the graveyard, though. If I Leyline here and they Electro Dominance casting Living End, I am basically dead. That's 6, 14, 19. I am actually literally dead. So I think I might actually need this up just that I have another red source. But killing Living End stuff is not going to make anybody happy here.
Bolt doesn't kill. Kills one thing.
2 bolts can kill the 6/4.
Yeah. And you have the other one to deal with Assassin's Trophy.
I'm just going after the As for Tolds here. They clearly don't have the Living End as it stands, so I might be able to control their way to do it. Although that doesn't really work because I have Electro Dominance now. I just have to accept I'm dead here. They're going to Cryptic, bouncing it, bouncing a land or drawing a card. Or just negate. I think I just need to pack it up here.
We used our.
Sorry, what was
our
that?
Only out. I can't think of our only outs. We have Hazoret, and that's really all you're banking on right now. Hazoret to just start applying pressure, but he'll probably get countered at this point.
Yeah, I think it's fine to scoop it up here. 2-3 isn't terrible, though, especially considering we played 3 green-black decks. So, the deck. definitely needs more finishers. There's a reason that the traditional gen list runs things like Gleef and Skoos and Tireless Tracker and Bloodbraid, they all apply a clock, which this deck didn't have. We just tried to go for the big fun finish at the end. Sideboard also had some interesting options in it. Blood Moon game plan is always kind of strong. People really don't expect it when you're 3 color and you kind of don't really lean on the fact that you might be doing it, especially with like so many colored mana symbols in our deck, like Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy requiring 2 separate colors that aren't in Blood Moon. Makes it really a shocker when you do it. That one game was super slow, but also mana screwed. Card draw would be fantastic. Vraska just didn't cover enough weight there.
A damnation or two.
Yes, some board
Probably
clears.
just one of.
I was looking at Anger of the Gods, but I just assumed it didn't do enough that I cared about it. It was nice that it would multicast it off of the Ascensions, so it could do 6 damage, and that would clear out everything, but that would also kill Hazoret. Hazoret also might not be the best finisher in there, but she did what she was supposed to. If I wasn't drawing cards, she was a body and had some reach, and she was pretty flexible and strong. Do you think you'd want to play a deck with 10 Abrupt Decays in it?
Is 10 too many?
Traditional Jund and even just black-green straight say yes. A lot of them are just switching to the 4 Assassins Trophy, completely replacing Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay only hits... The uncounterable part of Abrupt Decay only matters against Search for Azcanta, Detention Sphere, and that's about it. Like, a lot of the meta right now is things like Spell Queller that just exile it, or Kitesail Freebooter that takes it before you cast it. The uncounterable clause really doesn't matter, which is why a lot of people are running to the 4 Assassins Trophy. Also, being a graveyard strategy right now is terrible. Between Creeping Chill Dredge and the Phoenix deck, like that green blacklist was packing Skoos' and Nihil Spellbomb's main board to deal with graveyards. Opponent made a couple of sequencing errors there and didn't bank on Blood Moon, so we were able to cheese that one out, but I don't really think that that was... Relying on Pyromancer's Ascension game 1 is a little rough. It might be a little more accurate to be traditional Jund, maybe just have like 4 Ghosts main board, and if we're expecting a lot of removal, just swap out for the graveyard. I don't know. It was interesting, though. I mean, going 2-3 isn't terrible. But that's Jund Pyromancer Ascension. Again, probably wouldn't recommend the deck, but it was pretty fun when we went off, and I'm sure it could be tuned to do that more often. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Will, thanks for participating.
Thanks for having me.
Woo!